No, real estate, motorways, agri, healthcare, and power, 5 sectors. That does not exclude the remaining 12 or 13 sectors that are part of infrastructure, which includes pipelines, which includes communication technology, and which includes, obviously, broadband. So yes, there's been a time lapse from when I said 5 sectors to now. Assets have grown 55%, and as a consequence, there's flexibility. So do not be discouraged to reach out to us. That's really the point I'm making. So in trying to make sure that people understand that, yes, even though I didn't always say Comtech, we've done 2 things already. We've invested in a communication services company 2 months ago. So there is interest on our side for the sector. So don't be confused by it. It is something that I still think as time goes on and more capital comes in, we're going to be able to look at the sector as an area much more forcefully. Right now, we're being very selective, again, because the assets are still fairly small. We're talking $1.5 billion total assets, of which 60% is in securities and 40% is for infrastructure. So you'll be very selective as you reach out to us. But I'm hoping that as time goes on and the assets grows, we'll play a much more significant role in communication technology. Does that clarify it at all?
Thank you. A round of applause for Uche Oji, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all part of what we're saying here. Do we have more hands raised?
Yeah, so I saw some disappointing faces when I said Comtech wasn't there, but I had to be sure that I laid the groundwork clearly for you.
Haven't explained. The disappointed faces should not look appointed, right? So can we have more hands, just in case? I think, personally, I think this is very, very key for the growth of our businesses. The little that I know of the capital market, I think that we should begin to aggressively access the opportunities in the capital market so that businesses can grow. And that is the only way to sustain this #1 position that Nigeria has assumed. The private sector has a major role to play, and the capital market is the place to be.
Sure.
So I don't know if we still have some questions in the house. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Oji. Sure. Thanks for the lecture, or the presentation. My question is, the NSIA, some information we had was that states were reluctant to put money into the NSIA. Has this position been resolved, and at what rate is your investment pool growing?
Sure. I tried very hard to avoid that subject. But obviously, anytime I take the microphone, I was surprised that was not the first question, actually. Right. Now, let me go back to this. First of all, the matter between the states and the federal government is between the state and the federal government. The NSIA is not being sued. The NSIA is not, in my opinion, it's an indirect party because it's a matter of how you use extra budgetary funding. So that matter is still ongoing. The new funds we received came from the federal government, or from agencies of the federal government, so it's important you understand that. But let me step back and address something more fundamental to your question, and that is this. Sovereign wealth funds in most countries have been controversial. You just don't hear about it, A, because you were probably not interested, or because the intensity of the controversy may not have been as loud as the one we have to face here. And I remember this very clearly. In 1996, I was part of the team that managed funds for the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund at Goldman Sachs Asset Management. At the time, they were under $1 billion. It was big controversy. What are we going to do? And it's still controversy today, and I'll explain to you in a minute why. At the time, they were under $1 billion. The government made a policy decision to continue to contribute steadily. And today, the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund is just under $800 billion between 1996 and today. It's the biggest in the world. Now, the challenge they face is the young generation have grown, and the young generation says, all right, fine, you've saved up enough money for us, bring it back. And that continues to evolve at another level of debate. In my view, the debate around this is very important. It's very important that the debate is robust and extensive. So I don't necessarily look at it and think controversy. I look at it and I think it's important that we debate this because in most other places, it is also has been debated. But having said that, there is enough evidence to suggest that countries where they made the decision to consciously invest in this have looked back and benefited from it. You know, many of you go to Abu Dhabi and go to Dubai. You know, they started in 1976 with less than $30 million. And today, we're looking at $600 billion. It's about the consistency of contribution. When they started it, they had the same concerns that we have today. We need this, we need that, we don't have this, we don't have that. But when you make the decision to consciously save for the future generation, eventually the better off for it. When I transitioned from banking and went to work for what was a slightly bigger wealth management company at UBS, the mantra I was part of listening to some of our wealth managers talk. They will lend money, not necessarily to the wealthiest, but to the most disciplined. Sovereign wealth funds is a tool of fiscal discipline. Now, no matter how little your income is, if you put aside 10%, 5% every year for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you have a stock of capital to achieve significant things with. The reality is that hydrocarbon resources are not renewable. You know, many of you sit here and you forget that at some point in the 90s, oil price was under 20, I saw $11 a barrel. So the reality about some of these things is we can debate this all we want. The reality is we must find a way, in my opinion, to make sure that we are responsible for the future generations. And that, I think, is the message and the advocacy I expect every one of us who's going to be a participant in this to advocate. So I look back and I say, you know, great debate. We continue to, I think that it's important that this is extensively, especially in a country as big as Nigeria, in a new democracy, relatively new democracy, this thing is important that we debate it. But it hasn't necessarily affected the way that we invest. The board continues to operate, and this is why so far we've made about 5 or 6 commitments in the infrastructure area, in the future generations area, and a couple of 3 or 4 commitments we've made in the infrastructure area, and we'll continue to make a few. Big pipeline we have, and before the end of the year, my sense is that we'll continue to make sure that you see the benefits of these to Nigerians.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Uche Orji. Finally, Dr. Ernest Ndukwe. Let's put our hands together for him, please.
Thank you very much. There was a brilliant paper by Uche on the topic of the day. I must say that Lanre beat me to it in asking why the Sovereign Wealth Fund did not consider ICT as an area for primary investment.
In the first phase.
In the first phase.
Important, yes.
Because it actually, people talk a lot about the importance of ICT to national development. In your speech, we likened a broadband to the impact that electricity has or is still having in the world today. So if that infrastructure component is that important, I think that it should actually have been part of the areas that should have been included in the first phase. But be that as it may, you've made some of the explanations. So I think we'll take it as that because the decision had been made. But I hope it will feature prominently in the next phase. And that ICT is that important to national development. And that a lot of money is required to make sure that we continue to remain on top of the situation. It actually happened, in fact, when I was the EVC of NCC, towards the later part of that, we found out that the list of sectors that Nigeria gave to World Bank as priority sectors, ICT was not there. And when I asked, they said that ICT had already advanced so much that it wasn't that important anymore, that they want to concentrate more on power, agriculture, and sectors of that nature. But the truth of the matter is that ICT would continue to be the infrastructure of infrastructures, and needs to continue to be a center of focus. But my question to you tonight is, since you mentioned that UK invested £250 million in order to drive ICT or broadband growth to other parts of the country, or increase it from 90% to 99%. If Nigeria were to put money into broadband today, where do you think the money will come from? Where do you think, which part of government should provide this money? And how would it be provided in order to make sense? And any other thoughts about how investment in broadband infrastructure can be harnessed as quickly as possible? Thank you very much.
All right. I don't supposed to speak for my boss, the Minister of Finance, but let me say this. And I think it's really up to you as an industry group to push for some level of advocacy. There have been intervention funds created for other sectors. Nexim recently is supporting the likes of Nollywood. There's been intervention funds created. And my sense is there's, to the extent that there's a case to be made, we've seen that for power, we've seen it for aviation, we've seen it for other sectors.
This occasion, a big round of applause for the ingenuity of a young Nigerian. Again, we have here a free Wi-Fi service provided by Smiles Telecoms Limited. And very soon, would give them a minute or so to speak to us. When the publisher presented his welcome address, he did mention that a Nigerian, a young man, did make it possible that we are being streamed on live on YouTube. And he said that this young man should be encouraged by being given the opportunity for 1 or 2 minutes to share with you how this feat was accomplished. Let's put our hands together and bring him very quickly for just 2 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Chimdi. Where is Chimdi, please? Where is Chimdi? He's coming, please. Can we encourage him with a round of applause? The man who says that with telecoms, all things are possible. Chimdi, how did you do this? Very quickly, 2 minutes.
Hello. I don't like talking, I don't like coming out, but I don't know why they had to play this coup on me. Well, they called me that they were going to have the Nigerian Communication Week, and I asked them, what do you want to do about that? Why don't you have it online so that people who are not able to attend this event can have an opportunity to follow the event as it happens live? There were some issues about them saying it's too late, no, it can't happen. We went back and forth on it, and we decided that let's give it a try. So we did, and thanks to the help from Smile, who provided the internet that we're using for it, we're able to put it together and have it online for people to watch. There are people watching the event right now as it happens on the internet. And as much as they would have wanted to be here, it's giving them an opportunity to watch without having to come down here. Some people are outside Nigeria watching, and if you think about them flying down to Nigeria for this event, what it will cost them and all that. But the use of YouTube and Smile's 4G internet service allowed us to do HD streaming right from here. I think it's something that we should be encouraged to do more about. I think for every event we want to do, we should try and look at how we can give other people outside the venue an opportunity to be a part of that event and an opportunity to interact with the event live. Thank you.
Thank you, Chimdi. There is hope for this country.
Experience the super fast internet access now in Lagos. For those who actually want Smile, we can bring it to you at your doorstep. Presently here we have devices which range from the MiFi router that costs 16,000 naira that actually gives access to 10 people. Super fast.
Inform. Ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are free, let's put our hands together and appreciate the Nigerian Army Steel Band. Come on. Come on. Thank you. You know, I belong to a group of people in this country who pride themselves as eating and talking people. We pride ourselves as eating and talking people. I know that some of you might know this group, but just in case you do not, we can eat and talk at the same time. Yes, I can see that so many of us are still eating, but because we must leave here, tomorrow is Sunday, for those who belong to the Christian faith, it is a busy day of worship. So I would ask that you oblige us to continue with the presentations of the awards. And as you conclude eating, you will get into the flow. Ladies and gentlemen, to present the first set of awards tonight is a man who is very accomplished by every known strand of judgment and indication. He is president of the Association of Telecom Companies of Nigeria. May I respectfully invite to join me here our very own Mr. Lanre Ajayi. Please, if your hands are free, let's celebrate this patriot. Uncle Lanre, you will do what you know how to do best, because you know how to celebrate hard work. And that is why we have selected you to do the first set of presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the peak of the celebration tonight. The beacon of Information and Communication Technology Awards. Men and women, institutions that have acquitted themselves excellently. They are the pride of this great nation. They are the hope and the future of our hitting the top 20 economy in the years ahead. And so for them to have made it to this list, ladies and gentlemen, is an uncommon feat. The first award tonight is the Regulator of the Year. The Regulator of the Year. And if you're in the industry, you would submit very eloquently that this awardee is most deserving of this award. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're ready, the Regulator of the Year is the Nigeria Communications Commission. Let's put our hands together as we invite Mr. Jobo to represent the Executive Vice Chairman. Can you keep clapping until he comes to receive his award? Congratulations.
This award is certainly well deserved. People ask, do we have some other regulators in Nigeria? Yes, we do. There are tons of other regulators. CBN is a regulator, NAFDAC is a regulator, SEC is a regulator. But you are certainly distinguished. You have led this industry very well. And I congratulate you for this well-deserved award.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, the Regulator of the Year, NCC.
Congratulations once again.
Well, thank you very much. The publisher of Communication Week, on behalf of Dr. Eugene Jua, the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, whom I'm representing here this evening, I received this award. This award also goes to all the hard-working staff of the Nigerian Communications Commission, the management, and the board of the commission, without whose efforts we will not be receiving this award today. So this award is for every one of them that is working hard to see that this industry delivers the goods that are expected. And of course, our desire in the commission still remains that the Nigerian consumers will have value for money for the services that are delivered to them. And of course, the commission will keep striving to ensure that we remain the best regulator of telecoms in Africa, and then also to ensure that